Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's first video. We're doing the first seasonal model roundup for winter of 2018-19. For today's first video, we're going to get 12 long-range models together, see what they're all showing for only the first time this season. So we've done 4 winter updates during September so far. 5th winter update will be tomorrow. We haven't done any seasonal model roundups yet, but this is your first one. And we've got 13 winter updates in total, as well as 3 seasonal model roundups. So there will be a second seasonal model roundup at the end of October, and then a third and final one at the end of November. And then we get to December the 2nd, which is the day we're going to release a winter forecast. And we're going to put it all together. We'll put the seasonal models together with the Galvanized methodology, and hopefully we will be able to give you an accurate forecast for the winter of 2018-19. So quite a big update today. This is your first real snapshot of what the long-range models have shown. Of course, I've done a couple of updates with the ECMWF and Meteo France models. So if you watch those, you'll know what those 2 models have shown. I've been adding in 1 or 2 of the long-range models through the regular weekday videos as well, such as the CFS. But this is the first time we've put them all together. So for the first time this season, you'll be able to see what all 12 long-range models are showing for winter of 2018-19. Just say, coming up later on today, we're going to have the weekend forecast, so that's going to be quite interesting, I think, coming up early this afternoon. And then we'll also have a video looking at the weather for the next week to 10 days as well, with the GFS, ECM and the GM shorter range models. This is going to be quite a long video, as always, with the seasonal video, so if you can't watch it all in one go, this video will be placed on the winter updates and forecast page later on today, and there'll be a written summary that goes with it as well. Right, so let's get on with it. We're going to start off with the Brazilian model. Now, we're starting off with this one because it doesn't cover the full winter period yet. So this is taking us from November through December to January. So kind of like early winter. All of the other models that you see within this update will cover the full winter 2018-19 period. But this is a 500 millibar height anomaly from the Brazilian model. Now, I'm going to be careful with this because I got a bit mixed up with the colours with the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts in a video a couple of days ago. So I can tell you with this one, it's always a little bit different. So with this one, blue is extrapolating to above average heights, which is high pressure, and yellow, orange and red will be extrapolating to below average heights, which is low pressure. On any other 500 millibar height anomaly, that would be the other way around. So this one always does things a bit different. So it's shown that there's a big ridge from November to January in terms of the 500 millibar height anomaly here across eastern parts of Europe. Otherwise, not much else to go on. There's no real area of low pressure. It does look a bit bizarre. Pressure is weaker here, but it isn't particularly low, you would have to say. It looks like we also have some high pressure up here, and so just a very strange 500 millibar height anomaly flowchart for November, December, January with the Brazilian model. Temperature anomalies are looking like that. They're coming out milder than average through this early winter period with the Brazilian model. And precipitation anomalies, so close to average really, but eastern and southern parts of the country are coming out a little bit wetter than average. You'll notice it does look pretty dry here through the central northern Atlantic, so presumably there's some sort of area of high pressure there. Mid-Atlantic ridge may be going up towards Greenland, which you would have thought would force a jet stream southwards and possibly could bring some colder weather with it. But there's no real sign of that on either the height anomaly flow charts or the temperature anomaly charts. So, bit of a strange update to start us off with the Brazilian model. Next month, the Brazilian model will cover the full winter 2018-19 period. Right, going north from Brazil to Canada. This is Tansips, and this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly for winter 2018-2019. So it has a deep area of below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, and then it has some above average heights quite weakly up to the north, and if we come over here, that also appears to be extending over towards Scandinavia a little bit as well. So maybe a bit of a battleground UK type wind. You've got quite a strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic, but we do have some higher pressure up here close to Scandinavia. So maybe a bit of a battleground for the UK. We're trying to bring in easterlies perhaps from Scandinavia, but also with quite a strong Atlantic flow. Temperature anomalies are coming out close to average with Tansips. So again, not a big deviation. It looks like it's near normal with temperatures. Although notice most parts of Europe are actually coming out quite warm, as is most parts of North America. There's very little sign of any colder than average conditions anywhere. Some there to the south west of Greenland. But generally not much in way of colder than average anywhere in the northern hemisphere anyway. With Tansips this month. Precipitation wise, it actually looks quite dry, going for a little bit of a drier than average winter there. So maybe the high pressure to the northeast is just that little bit stronger than the Atlantic flow. But again, it's quite a complicated sort of pattern that 500 millibar height anomaly, I mean means sea level pressure anomaly that we've got going on there. Right, this is the temperature anomaly from NASA. So again, this is the temperature anomaly for winter 2018-19, coming out with slightly warmer than average temperature anomalies. Again, not a big deviation, but you'll see that most places are on the milder than average side. There's the scale, so we're only talking about a little bit milder than average, but nevertheless, a milder than average winter is being forecast there. As far as precipitation is concerned, little bit above average with precipitation for this winter. So NASA is going for generally quite a mild, but also potentially quite an unsettled winter, I think, really, for the UK and for Ireland as well. That's as much as I can show you from NASA, because they really don't show very much at all in terms of heights or mean sea level pressure now, unfortunately. This is a probability forecast for the temperatures during winter 2018-19 for Europe. This is from the International Research Institute for Climate and Society. It's part of Columbia University. So what you can see with this one is that generally it's going for average probability in terms of temperatures this winter. Most parts of Western Europe, so UK, Ireland, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, Belgium, Holland, down to Italy even, coming out with sort of average probability. Scandinavia looks like it's got a warmer than average probability going on up there, so a milder than average winter is being favoured for Scandinavia. And some eastern parts of Europe also have above average, a probability of above normal winter temperatures. As far as precipitation is concerned for this winter, generally quite a dry winter is being favoured. The probability is suggesting a drier winter for the UK and for Ireland as well with precipitation. Scandinavia comes out with above normal probability in terms of precipitation. And also some eastern and central parts of Europe as well, perhaps. So average temperatures and quite a dry winter being favoured by IRI for this month of winter 2018-19. Pattel Pen's analogues look like this. It's an analogue-based forecast. Pattel looks at sea surface temperature anomalies across the world in any given month. In this case, it was last month in August, and then creates an analogues-based forecast going forwards based on those sea surface temperature anomalies. So this is the 200 millibar height anomaly forecast for winter 2018-19, with below average heights to the north of the UK and above average heights to the southwest, which would leave us in a west-southwesterly flow. So generally just an Atlantic sort of mild winter being signalled there by Pattel Pen's analogues. The temperature anomaly, you'll not be surprised, is coming out warmer than average and milder than average winter being forecast by Pattel Pen's analogues for the UK and Ireland, as it is for most parts of Europe as well. Precipitation-wise, it looks like it'll be quite a wettish winter, especially so for the north and the west. So above average rainfall, but milder than average temperatures in what would be an Atlantic-driven winter for 2018-19. CFS V2 is looking like this at the moment. It does look Atlantic driven with below average heights up to the north, above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, the flow and the jet going through something like that. So that's an Atlantic-driven mild winter being forecast there for 2018-19 by CFS V2. Temperature anomalies are coming out warmer than average in most parts of Europe. Actually, the UK and Ireland it is closer to average there compared to many other parts of Europe. The warmest anomalies to average are away to the east and the northeast of Europe. But again, many places across Europe are coming out with a milder than average winter, and you have to include the UK in that as well, particularly England and Wales. And precipitation-wise, going for a rather wet winter here for the UK and for Ireland. So above average temperatures and above average precipitation in what is an Atlantic-driven west or southwesterly type winter. So far we haven't had any long-range models showing anything particularly cold. Now, this model I wanted to include is the Poama model. This is from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. This model is being discontinued on the 30th of this month, September, so just tomorrow on Sunday. This model will be no more. It's going to be discontinued, and they're going to be running with a new model that I won't be able to access. I have been able to access this Poama model over the past couple of years. We've been doing interpretations of this model in some of the seasonal model roundups. I thought it's going to be discontinued tomorrow. I just shown you this. So this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from Poama, which is part of Bureau of Meteorology, and this is for winter 2018-19, and it is going for above average pressure to be around Greenland and Iceland, with below average pressure across central parts of Europe, and that would leave us pulling in this cold east or northeasterly wind there. So this one is actually going for a cold signal for winter in terms of the mean sea level pressure anomaly for the UK and for Europe as well. Temperature anomalies aren't that dramatic. It is coming out a little bit cooler than average for the UK and for parts of northern Europe as well. A little bit cooler than average. And as far as precipitation is concerned, you'll see that it's going for a drier than average winter to the north of the UK and a wetter than average winter down to the south and also for central parts of Europe. So you won't be seeing Poama anymore. I thought I would include it for this update as it's going to be discontinued tomorrow on the 30th of September. You won't be seeing that model again. I don't think you'll be seeing any other output from the Bureau of Meteorology either. Big thank you to the Bureau of Meteorology for allowing me to have a look at their Poama model over the past couple of years or so. Big thank you to them. And of course, good luck to Bureau of Meteorology with their new model. Right, so the next model we're going to look at is Meteo France. Did the update on this last weekend. This is the mean sea level pressure anomaly for the winter of 2018-19. From Meteo France via the Copernicus website. And if you saw last weekend's update, you'll know that Meteo France is going for a cold and average winter in terms of the mean sea level pressure anomaly anyway. Has high pressure to our north and northwest with low pressure to the east of the country, and that would leave us pulling down quite cold northwesterly winds. It actually has a more blocked mean sea level pressure anomaly through the early winter period, so sort of November, December and January, and then this one, December, January, February, looks like it's easing the blocking a little bit, so it maybe hints at early winter cold, and then a little bit of moderation later in the winter. Temperature anomaly is not anything to be overly excited about, coming out with average temperature anomalies for the UK, although Ireland does actually come out a little bit colder than average. But again, it's always the heights of the pressure that are most important, less so temperature and precipitation anomalies. Meteo France, in terms of precipitation anomaly for winter 2018-19, is forecasting things to be close to average. You'll notice above average precipitation around the coast of the UK. That's probably primarily due to shower activity generated around the seas. Of course, in what will probably be quite a cold setup for the winter, a lot of those showers might be wintering. This is the ECMWF seasonal model. So again, this is mean sea level pressure anomalies for the winter of 2018-19 from ECMWF. And this one, again, is going for a cold sort of setup for the winter. It has high pressure over Scandinavia. The high pressure stretches out to the north of the UK in towards Greenland. We've got low pressure down to our south. The jet stream is going to the south of the UK as well. And all of this high pressure to the north will presumably be pulling the wind in from a cold easterly type direction. So there's no getting away from it from the mean sea level pressure anomaly. The ECMWF is forecasting a colder winter. Temperature anomalies, again, nothing to be overly excited about. They're just coming out close to average. But as I keep saying, it's always the heights of the pressure that are most important, less so temperature and precipitation anomalies. Talking of precipitation anomalies from the ECMWF, so we see that northern parts to the north of the UK, that's where we've got all that high pressure. It's drier than average up there. Actually, precipitation for the UK and for most of Europe is coming out average again. You'll see southeastern parts of Europe looking wetter than average. Both those two models, Meteo France and ECMWF, are hinting at a cold winter, even if the model doesn't know it yet from its temperature anomalies. With the way the mean sea level pressure anomalies are stacking up there, they are both indicating the risk, anyway, of a colder winter. And then we move on to Jamstec, and this one is going for a colder than average winter as well. The temperature anomaly is coming out colder than average for the UK, for Ireland, for France, down to Spain and Portugal as well. Keep in mind, this model is often biased towards cold and average temperatures at this point in the updates, and then what tends to happen is that you get further on and it moderates. So if it's still looking cold and average like that in November, then start getting excited. But at the moment, it's only September, and really, this model always seems to be showing cold and average temperature anomalies at this point in the updates. This how precipitation is looking, so it's going for a drier than average winter for most of the UK and out into the Atlantic as well. So quite a cold and dry winter being forecast by Jamstec right now. This is the Beijing Climate Centre. I'm not showing you any output from the Beijing Climate Centre yet for this winter, but I do favour this model very, very highly, particularly when we get to November. This will be the one to watch, I think, because in the final update before winter 2017-18, the Beijing Climate Centre was pretty much the only model, actually, to be forecasting a colder winter. It didn't go for a desperately cold winter, but it did hint at the chance of a colder winter. It's pretty much the only model to be doing that in the final seasonal model roundup before winter 2017-18. It was also just about the only model to be forecasting a genuinely hot summer for 2018 in the UK and northern parts of Europe. So I do rate the Beijing Climate Centre highly, particularly so when you get to the final update before the season. At this point, 3 months away, it is still prone to chopping and changing, so don't be too certain about the reliability of a model now, but in November this will be probably one of the main models to watch. As far as the 200 millibar height anomaly is concerned, for this month of winter 2018-19, it is seeing a blocking signal actually around Greenland, so it is going for some northern blocking to be in place there. But what it's doing is it's extending that down into the UK. And if we come over here, it also has a reach down to our south, which is kind of a messy and bizarre looking pattern with this low pressure in the Atlantic. We're very close to quite a cold setup actually there. But what will be happening, I think, is that we'll be pulling up fairly mild sort of southerly type winds, and probably a fairly dry winter as well, I would have thought, with all that high pressure around. Temperature anomalies are forecast to be a little bit milder than average. Not going over a desperately warm winter, but coming out a little bit milder than average. And that's because of the southerly sort of influence that we're seeing there, with a high pressure both to the north, to the east, but also crucially to the south of the UK. Precipitation-wise, so let's just check this. So actually, this goes for a slightly wetter than average winter, which is a little bit surprising based on that 200 millibar height anomaly. So it's going for slightly above average precipitation. It's not a big deviation. You'll notice much of the North Atlantic is actually looking fairly dry there. You can see where the low pressure is forecast to be, where it's wettest, and that's kind of like going through there. So possibly it is hinting at a little bit of a southerly tracking jet stream and I think it would only take really quite slight adjustments to take the ridge further north and possibly come out with a cold pattern. So this will be an interesting one to look at next month, I think. Will the Beijing Climate Centre shift towards a colder pattern in next month's update? It'll be very interesting to see that. And then finally, we've got the UK Met Office. So this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from the UK Met for winter 2018. 19. It's going for an unsettled winter. It has low pressure in the Atlantic and coming into the UK. So it is going for quite an unsettled looking pattern in the winter there. Does have some high pressure up to the north of Scandinavia and around Svalbard. Just want to run you through the progression of this, because that is for the winter. So I'm going to take you back to the mean sea level pressure anomaly for October, November, December. That's it. Notice all those blue colours that are up there around Greenland and Iceland for October, November, December. Lots of really deep low pressure up there. And then we go through to the next period, which is November, December, January. Again, you'll see, if anything, those blue colours have gone even deeper around Greenland and Iceland. So that's a really Atlantic-driven signal with west-southwesterly winds and quite a strong sort of polar vortex. But the difference from November, December, January to December, January, February shows that over the progression over the period does look as though we are lifting out those areas of low pressure from the north quite dramatically. Again, that's the mean sea level pressure anomaly for December, January, February. And it does still have a little bit of blue to the south of Greenland. That's proper deep areas of low pressure. But they are much less compared to the 3 months before. And so I think what this is telling us is that the model is picking up, with its progression, it's definitely picking up on an increase in pressure to our north over the 3 months of the winter 2018-19. It's not enough to come away with a blocked pattern, but definitely, I would have thought this relates particularly to late winter. This model is seeing pressure heights rising, high pressure developing, I would suggest quite dramatically, actually, towards the late winter period. So that could be something to follow up on when we get through to next month's second update. Temperature anomalies are coming out milder than average for this winter, so above average temperatures being forecast there. And precipitation-wise, we're going for a wetter than average winter as well, with glossy 5. So a mild wet winter overall, but I do think the progression that we see there from October, November, December to December, January, February, and then eventually December, from October, November, December, November, December, January, and then December, January, February. The progression that we see through that period, I think, is very much suggesting late on there's a rising pressure, rising height signal being seen there by glossy 5, which could excuse me, could hint at a colder late winter period. Right, so that's it. That's your first winter 2018-19 season model roundup. Been quite an interesting update. So a lot of these models are going for a milder than average winter, which you would expect at this point in the updates, because we're very early on, and milder Atlantic driven is the default setup. There are a few there, though, that are hinting at a colder winter. We've got Meteo France, ECMWF, they're looking very interesting with their mean sea pressure anomalies. Poama, again, is indicating a cold winter as well, although you won't see that model ever again after this update. And then also we've got Jamstec, although that always looks cold, or usually looks cold at this point in the updates. Maybe the Beijing Climate Centre, with its 200 millibar height anomaly, just hints at something a little bit interesting happening as well. So it is a mixed bag, but there's some colder models in the mix, which is quite unusual for the first update. And of course, we'll see where things go when we get through to next month's update. Next month, we will bring in the JMA model as well. So we'll have a look at that for next month's second update. Right, this video will be placed on the winter updates and forecast page later on today with a written summary, just going over everything that we've discussed in the video. And then coming up later on, we've got weekend forecast and also a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days in detail. Tomorrow, we've got the 5th winter 2018-19 update, which among all of the regular features will be a bit of a solar cycle special. We're around solar minimum. Will this increase our chance of a cold winter for 2018-19? You'll find out tomorrow. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.